I never thought the day would come when my own parents would look me in the eye, through a phone call, no less, and tell me that my children weren't welcome in their home. But there I was, standing frozen in my kitchen, staring at my phone in disbelief. Thanksgiving was just weeks away, and my mother's voice was unusually cheerful as she spoke. "Honey, we need to talk about Thanksgiving this year." For a moment, warmth spread through me. Despite the tensions that had simmered between us over the years, I still cherished these traditions. My kids, Emma and Lucas, adored their grandparents, even though an invisible distance had grown between us all. "Of course, Mom, what's the plan?" I asked, already imagining their house filled with the scent of roasted turkey and cinnamon, the familiar comfort of a family gathering. There was a pause, just long enough to send a ripple of unease through me. "Well," Mom said, clearing her throat, "this year, we're doing things a little differently. It'll be a smaller dinner, just adults, you know, something more intimate." My stomach dropped. "Oh, so no kids at all?" Another pause, then, more hesitantly, she added, "Well, not exactly." A cold knot formed in my chest. "What do you mean?" Mom sighed, the way someone does when they're trying to make themselves sound like the reasonable one. "Ellie, you know we love your kids, but they're a bit energetic, and honestly, we just think it would be best if you left them with a sitter this year." I tightened my grip on the edge of the counter. "Just my kids? What about Daniel's?" "Daniel, my older brother, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, even when he did." Silence, and that was all the answer I needed. "They're coming," Mom admitted, "but, Ellie, you know how well-behaved Daniel's boys are. They're just quieter, more refined. It's easier to have them at the table." A wave of heat rose up my neck. It felt like a slap, like the ground had been yanked out from beneath me. "They're children," I said, my voice tight. "Emma is 7, Lucas is 4. Of course, they have energy, but they're sweet, and they love you. We just want a peaceful evening," Mom replied, her tone growing sharper, as if I were the one being unreasonable. "It's not personal, Ellie." "Not personal?" I swallowed back the bitterness creeping up my throat. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving, it was the school plays they never attended. While Daniel's boys always had front row support, it was the way Christmas presents were just a little more thoughtful when they were for his kids, the way mine were always an afterthought. And now they weren't even pretending anymore. "I can't believe this," I whispered. "You're really telling me my kids aren't welcome, but Daniel's are?" Mom sighed, exasperated. "Oh, Ellie, don't be dramatic. It's just one dinner. You and Liam are still invited, of course." I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. They wanted me there, but not the two little people I loved most in the world. A lump formed in my throat, but I pushed past it. "No, Mom, if my kids aren't welcome, neither am I." A silence stretched between us, heavy and final, then, a sharp exhale. "Suit yourself." And just like that, she hung up. I stood there, phone still in my hand, the quiet hum of the fridge the only sound in the kitchen. From the other room, I heard Emma and Lucas giggling, lost in their own world of pillow forts and pretend adventures, oblivious to the fact that their grandparents, the ones they adored, had just cast them aside like an inconvenience. My heart clenched. I had spent years trying to earn my parents' approval, years convincing myself that their favoritism wasn't as blatant as it seemed, that deep down, they saw me, and my children, as just as important as Daniel and his family. But tonight, they had made it clear. They didn't. I took a slow breath, forcing a smile as I stepped into the living room. "All right, you two," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Who's ready for movie night?" Lucas sat up excitedly. "Can we watch the one with the talking dog?" I scooped him up, pressing a kiss to his soft curls. "Of course, buddy." But as we curled up on the couch, the anger inside me refused to fade. For so long, I had played by my parents' rules, hoping that if I did everything right, I would finally be seen as equal to Daniel. But it had never been enough. And I was done trying. The next morning, I woke up to a text from my brother. "Daniel, Mom said you're being difficult about Thanksgiving. Why do you always have to make everything so dramatic?" I stared at the screen, my teeth clenched. Of course, she had already gone to him. "Me, oh, so she told you she uninvited my kids but kept yours on the guest list?" The typing bubbles appeared, then vanished. A full minute passed before his reply came through. "Daniel, she just wants a peaceful dinner. Ellie, you know how your kids can be, a handful." A handful, like they were a problem, something to be managed rather than cherished. Something inside me snapped. Enjoy your perfect Thanksgiving, Daniel, I won't be there. I powered off my phone before he had a chance to respond. They didn't want me or my kids at their table? Fine, I wasn't going to be part of their lives at all. And they were about to find out exactly what that meant. For years, I had been the dependable one, the one who always stepped in when they needed something. When my parents needed groceries, I was their go-to. When their internet stopped working, I was the one driving over to fix it. When family events needed planning, I was the one making calls and running errands. And Daniel? He barely lifted a finger, yet he was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. But if I wasn't part of their chosen family, then they weren't going to benefit from me anymore. A week before Thanksgiving, Mom called again. I debated ignoring it, but in the end, I picked up. "Hello? Ellie," she said, her voice careful, measured. "I wanted to check in. I know you were upset, but I really hope you'll reconsider. We'd love to have you and Liam join us. Not me and the kids, just me and Liam." I took a steadying breath. I meant what I said, Mom. If my children aren't welcome, neither am I. A dramatic sigh filled the line, thick with exasperation. "I just don't see why you're being so stubborn about this. It's one night. You know how much Daniel's boys mean to us." And there it was. The final, undeniable proof that my children, the two people I loved more than anything, would never be enough for her. I swallowed hard. "You've made your choice, Mom. I won't bother you again." "Ellie, don't be ridiculous." I ended the call before she could finish. This time, I didn't cry. I started small. When Dad called that weekend asking for help setting up his new TV, I let it go to voicemail. When Mom texted, needing a prescription picked up, I left it unread. For years, I had been at their beck and call, always available, always reliable. Not anymore. And it didn't take them long to notice. By Thanksgiving, I had ignored 12 calls and 6 texts. That morning, another message came in, from Daniel. "Daniel, Mom and Dad are really upset that you're freezing them out. Are you seriously taking it this far?" It went too far the moment they decided my kids weren't good enough for them. This time, there was no response. I silenced my phone and turned my attention to the only family that mattered. Emma and Lucas sat at the table, giggling as Liam helped them mix pancake batter. Flour covered their hands, their clothes, practically the entire kitchen. This was our Thanksgiving. And for the first time in years, I felt at peace. Little did I know, my parents weren't done yet. And what they did next? I would never forgive them for it. Thanksgiving morning was quiet in a way I hadn't experienced in years. No frantic rush to get the kids dressed in their best clothes. No stress over making a perfect dish to impress people who didn't appreciate it. No tight-lipped smiles or glances at the clock, dreading being late. Instead, our home was filled with laughter, the warm scent of maple syrup, and the simple joy of a morning spent together. Emma and Lucas took turns stirring the batter while Liam flipped pancakes with exaggerated flair, making them shriek with laughter whenever he nearly dropped one. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Then my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. "Mom." I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, it rang again. And then again. Liam shot me a questioning look. "Want me to turn it off?" I hesitated, then shook my head. "No, if it's an emergency, I should at least know." I swiped to answer, keeping my voice even. "What is it, Mom?" "Oh, now you pick up," she huffed. "I suppose you're just sitting at home, wallowing, while we're all having a lovely dinner." I sighed. "Mom, if you called just to rub it in, I really don't have time for this." "That's not why I called," she snapped. "I need to ask you something." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "What now?" "The credit card," she said sharply. "Did you cancel it?" The room around me seemed to still. I turned away from Liam, my voice low. "What are you talking about?" "Your father's credit card, the one we use for groceries, gas, essentials. It was declined this morning." A slow, icy realization crept over me. She wasn't talking about their credit card. She was talking about mine. Years ago, when Dad had surgery and money was tight, I had added them as authorized users on my account, temporarily, just to help them out. I had meant to remove them when they got back on their feet, but life got busy, and I forgot. And they had never reminded me. My stomach twisted. You mean my credit card? Silence. Then, a dismissive scoff. Oh, don't be so dramatic, Ellie. It's just a card. You make good money, and we figured. You figured what? My voice shook now. That you could just keep spending my money, that I wouldn't notice? Mom let out a long, exaggerated sigh. Oh, come on, we raised you. The least you could do is help support us. I inhaled sharply. Are you kidding me? After telling me my kids weren't good enough to come to Thanksgiving, you still expected me to keep paying for your groceries? Do you even hear yourself? There was a pause, then a clipped, annoyed voice. You know what, Ellie? This is exactly why we don't like having difficult conversations with you. You always overreact. Always. I was done. You got one thing right, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I did cancel the card, and since we're being brutally honest, let me make this crystal clear, you won't see another dime from me, ever. Mom gasped like I had physically struck her. Ellie, don't be ridiculous. I didn't let her finish. And while we're at it, don't expect birthday gifts, Christmas presents, or anything else from me again. You made your choice when you decided my kids weren't welcome. Now, I'm making mine. Silence. Then, in the coldest voice I had ever heard from her, she said, you'll regret this. And then she hung up. I stood there for a moment, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. Slowly, I turned back toward the kitchen. Liam watched me closely. Everything okay? I forced a small smile. Yeah, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, just taking out the trash. He didn't ask any more questions. The rest of the day was ours, movies, cookies, board games, no stress, no eggshells to walk on, no pretending. But as peaceful as it was, I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. Because my parents weren't just going to let their personal ATM walk away. And their next move would show me exactly who they were. The silence didn't last long. 3 days after Thanksgiving, my phone lit up. Daniel. I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won. With a sigh, I answered. What do you want? What the hell, LA? He snapped, skipping any fake pleasantries. Mom just called me in tears, saying you cut them off. What is wrong with you? I closed my eyes, rubbing my temple. Did she also mention that they'd been spending my money for years without telling me? A pause. Well, she said you were helping them out. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Helping them out? Daniel, they've charged thousands to my account without asking, while treating my kids like trash. But sure, let's pretend I'm the villain here. He sighed, clearly trying to rein in his frustration. Look, I get that you're mad, but completely cutting them off? That's extreme. You mean like completely excluding my children from Thanksgiving? I shot back. They just wanted a peaceful evening. LA, Mom said your kids can be a little wild. My grip tightened on the phone. Oh, I see, so they can spend my money, but my kids aren't good enough for their table? Got it. He groaned. You're twisting this. No, Daniel, I'm finally seeing it. Silence. Then his voice shifted, smooth, calculating. Look, maybe we can work something out. What if you just kept helping them, but with limits, like a smaller monthly amount? That way, no one has to suffer over a misunderstanding. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let me get this straight. You want me to keep paying them, after they literally told me they love your kids more than mine? They didn't mean it like that, he grumbled. They said it, Daniel. He had no response. After a long pause, his voice turned stiff. Fine, if you want to be selfish, that's on you, but don't expect Mom and Dad to forgive you anytime soon. I smirked, shaking my head. I'll survive. And before he could say another word, I hung up. 4 weeks, my parents played the silent treatment game. No calls, no texts. I figured they were waiting for me to cave, to come crawling back, desperate for their approval like I always had. What they didn't realize was that, for the first time in my life, I didn't need it anymore. And just when I thought they'd finally given up, they pulled one last, desperate stunt. A week before Christmas, the letter arrived. Liam found it in the mailbox, frowning as he read the sender's name. It's from your parents. I stiffened. Oh, great. Let me guess, guilt, manipulation, or straight-up gaslighting? He smirked. Why don't we find out? I took the envelope, my stomach tightening as I tore it open. Inside was an official-looking document. My breath caught as I read the words. They were demanding reimbursement for years of emotional and financial support. I let out a disbelieving laugh. You have got to be kidding me. Liam took the letter, scanning it quickly. They're saying you owe them, for raising you, for all the financial sacrifices they made for your well-being. He looked up, jaw tightening. They're literally trying to bill you for your own childhood? Apparently, they were. They had even attached an itemized list: expenses for food, clothes, school supplies, medical bills from when I was a kid. And at the bottom, a final total: $78,542. I blinked. They seriously think I'm going to give them 80 grand? Liam scoffed. They must be desperate. I exhaled slowly, the anger bubbling beneath the surface. This wasn't about the money. This was about control, a final, desperate attempt to pull me back into their orbit. I glanced at Liam, already knowing what I had to do. I think it's time I pay them a little visit. The next day, I drove to my parents' house, clutching the letter in my hands. I knocked, and when Mom answered, her expression hardened instantly. Oh, so now you decide to show up? I refused to take the bait. Instead, I held up the letter. You really thought this would work? She crossed her arms. It's what's fair. I let out a harsh laugh. Fair? You want to charge me for being your child, but expect to take my money for the rest of your lives without question? Dad appeared in the doorway, smug as ever. We sacrificed so much for you, Ellie, and now you're turning your back on us. I stared at them, shaking my head in disbelief. No, Dad, you abandoned me, when you made it clear my kids weren't welcome, when you lied and stole from me, when you put a price on my worth. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. If you're not going to pay, we'll take legal action. I met her gaze, unflinching. Go ahead. She blinked, stunned. What? I crossed my arms, a sharp edge to my voice. Take me to court. Try to explain to a judge why you're suing your own daughter over expenses from 20 years ago. See how that turns out for you. Silence. For the first time, they looked uncertain. Dad cleared his throat, his confidence waning. We just thought you'd want to make things right. I let out a bitter laugh. Oh, I am making things right, right now. I tore the letter in half, watching their faces freeze in shock. I'm done being your personal ATM. Mom gasped. You ungrateful. I spun on my heel, not looking back. Merry Christmas, I called over my shoulder as I walked to the car. And for the first time in my life, I felt lighter. As I drove away, I realized something. They weren't upset about the money. They were upset because, for the first time ever, I held all the power. And I wasn't giving it back. I thought that ripping up their ridiculous demand would be enough to make them back off. That maybe, just maybe, they'd sit in the wreckage of their own arrogance and realize they'd pushed me too far. But people like them? They don't change. They just escalate. It started small. A text from Mom, 2 days before Christmas. Mom, Allie, this is ridiculous. We're family. You don't turn your back on family over a silly argument. I ignored it. The next day, another message. Mom, we forgive you. Come to Christmas dinner, and we'll forget this ever happened. I almost laughed. They forgive me? A few hours later, one from Daniel. Daniel, they're really hurting. Ellie, just apologize so we can move on. I rolled my eyes. Of course, in his mind, I was the one who had done something wrong. I typed my response. Me, funny, they weren't hurting when they were stealing from me, or when they told me my kids weren't welcome. I think they'll survive. I hit send and immediately blocked his number. Then Christmas Eve arrived. Liam and I had just finished decorating the tree, and Emma and Lucas were in their pajamas, dancing around the living room, too excited to sleep. It felt perfect. Then the doorbell rang. Liam and I exchanged a look. No way, he muttered. I walked to the door and peered through the peephole. Sure enough. Mom and Dad. I thought about ignoring them, but then I saw what they were holding. A giant, beautifully wrapped gift. I sighed and opened the door. What do you want? Mom's face lit up with forced cheerfulness. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Dad offered the gift, for the kids. I folded my arms. No, thanks. Mom's smile faltered. Ellie, don't be stubborn. Let's not ruin Christmas over this. You already ruined Christmas, I shot back, when you told me my children weren't good enough for your table, remember that? Her mouth opened, then then closed. Dad sighed. Come on, Ellie, let's just be a family again. I stared at them, feeling only exhaustion. You don't want to be a family, I said quietly, you just want me to go back to being useful. Their silence was all the answer I needed. I shook my head. Take your gift and leave. Mom's expression hardened. Ellie, don't be selfish, think about the children. I smiled coldly. I am thinking about the children, that's exactly why you're not in their lives anymore. Dad's jaw clenched. You really want to do this? I exhaled slowly. I already did. And with that, I slammed the door in their faces. That night, we had the best Christmas ever. Emma and Lucas tore into their presents, their laughter filling the house. We drank hot cocoa, played board games, and watched Christmas movies until they fell asleep on the couch. And for the first time in my life, Christmas wasn't about trying to prove myself. It was about us. Real family, chosen family. The kind that doesn't come with conditions. The kind that doesn't require you to earn love. The kind that loves you because they want to, not because they expect something in return. I thought that was the end of it. That after being cut off financially, humiliated at Christmas, and rejected at my front door, my parents would finally understand that I was done. But I underestimated just how much control they thought they still had over me. New Year's Eve was supposed to be a fresh start, a night to let go of the past and welcome a new beginning. That's what I kept telling myself as I set up the snack table, the sounds of laughter and music filling our home. Emma and Lucas were bouncing with excitement, running around in their party hats, eagerly counting down to midnight. Liam was pouring champagne for us, a gentle smile on his face. It was our night, our celebration. And then, the knock. I froze, my stomach tightening. Liam glanced at me. You think? I didn't need to hear more, I already knew. I walked to the door, took a steadying breath, and opened it. There they were. Mom, Dad, Daniel, and Daniel's wife, Sophie. It was an ambush. I crossed my arms, not backing down. What do you want? Mom smiled, but it was the same fake, sugary smile she always used when she needed something. We just want to talk. No, thanks, I replied flatly. Dad sighed heavily. Ellie, enough, you've made your point. Now, let's fix this before it goes too far. I narrowed my eyes. Too far? What does that even mean? Mom exchanged a glance with Daniel. We just don't want this to hurt the kids. Her tone made my skin crawl. What do you mean by that? Daniel stepped forward, crossing his arms like he was the one wronged. Mom and Dad have consulted a lawyer. A chill ran through me. A lawyer? I repeated, trying to wrap my head around it. Mom nodded, her eyes gleaming with fake concern. We're just worried, Ellie. You've cut the kids off from their real family over a small misunderstanding. That's not fair to them. My heart began to race. What are you saying? Dad cleared his throat. We're looking into grandparents' rights. For a moment, everything went quiet except for the sound of my blood rushing in my ears. Then, I laughed. It wasn't a small laugh. It was loud, sharp, and wild. They thought they could use the law to force their way back into my life, and into my kids' lives. Daniel's face twisted in frustration. What's so funny? I wiped my eyes, struggling to contain my amusement. Oh, you're serious? You really think any judge is going to side with you on this? Mom pressed her lips into a thin line. We've done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong? I repeated, stepping forward. You stole from me, you treated my kids like second-rate citizens, and now that I've cut you off, you think you can just push your way back in? Dad's expression darkened. You don't want to do this, Ellie. I met his gaze with a smile. Oh, but I do. I pulled out my phone, holding it up. I want you to think carefully about what you're about to do, I said, my voice steady and cold. I've got every text, every voicemail, every money demand. If you go through with this, I will destroy you. Sophie gasped. Ellie, come on. No, I snapped, my eyes locked on my parents. You have no case, we all know it, and if you keep pushing me, I'll make sure the whole world sees you for who you really are. A long silence. Then Mom's face twisted in anger. You're being unreasonable. I smiled. No, Mom, I'm finally being smart. I stepped back into my house, grabbing the door. Happy New Year, I said sweetly. And then, I slammed the door in their faces. They never followed through with their pathetic legal threat. They knew they had nothing. They knew they had lost. In the weeks that followed, I heard nothing from them. No texts, no calls, nothing. And for the first time in my life, it felt like freedom. The weight of their expectations, gone. The pressure to make them happy, gone. The endless cycle of guilt and manipulation, gone. Months later, on a sunny spring afternoon, I sat on the porch, watching Emma and Lucas chase bubbles in the yard. Liam handed me a lemonade and sat beside me. "It's been quiet." I nodded. "Yeah, feels good." He smirked. "Think they'll ever try again?" I took a sip, watching my kids giggle as they popped the bubbles. It doesn't matter. Because I'd already won. I had my kids. My real family. And I'd never let anyone make them feel unwanted again. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Stay stunned.